Welcome in, everybody, to the first episode of 2025. New season is upon us, and we'll be coming to you each and every week leading up to opening round. At the time of this recording, it's just 58 days until the first match of the 2025 AFL season. My name is John, and I'm your host of the All Aussie Rules podcast. We're back for season 2 of the potty, and this year is going to be huge. 2025 plan for the channel / podcast is to have one episode every week heading up until late February, and then we'll be running 2 episodes every week all the way through to the end of the AFLW season, which is at the end of November. So all the way through footy season for both AFL and AFLW will be running 2 episodes a week. These will be released Mondays and Fridays, but the single episodes for the first month and a half will be released every Wednesday. All major podcasting platforms, we've added Apple Podcasts this year, so this episode right now is the first one going across to Apple Podcasts, but as last year, we're going to continue on with YouTube and Spotify as well, so any of those spots, you can find this podcast each and every week. As well as the podcast, we're going to be bringing plenty of other content as well. Over on the YouTube channel, we're going to be running a lot of videos this year, throughout the year. To start off with, we're going to be having some season previews for every single team, one a day throughout the month of February, basically. Starting January 31st will be the first one, which will be Adelaide, work all the way through to the Western Bulldogs, which will come out the day before the first match of the AFL season. So stick around, check them out. There will be plenty of good content for you. Don't just check out your team, check out all of them. I'm sure they're going to be good. I'm already started working on them. As well as that, we're also going to have some AFL Fantasy and Supercoach preview videos heading into the season as well. So stick around, check them out. And there's also plenty of other content / thoughts of mine that go out most days out on TikTok, Twitter /X, Blue Sky, Instagram. Check all of that out. Plenty of content across the board. So get following on them all. My Linktree has all of the stuff that I do, so go check that out for the links to everything. That's the housekeeping done for 2025, well, the start of 2025 at least. Time to look into today's episode and what you can look forward to in the next half an hour or so. We're going to be looking at our final player rankings for 2024 and start preparing for our 2025 pre-season top 50 players. I released the top 50 last year in a video. I think it was like episode something or other, episode 70 of the podcast last year. So it's not the first time we'll be seeing that, but it'll be the first time we start developing our 2025 pre-season predictions. I'm sure there'll be some controversial picks in here, some that you may agree with, some that you may not. So make sure you jump in the comments. Keep it friendly-ish, but jump down in the comments below. Whether you're watching this on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple, jump in the comments. Let me know what you agree with and what you don't agree with for my best players in the AFL, really. So, no further ado, let's jump into it. Into our, first of all, top 50 players of 2024. We might also look at a few lower down, depending on how we're going for time and whatnot. But so let's go back, look at final 2024 AFL player rankings. We're not going to talk about every single player. We're not going to show every single player. I do have rankings for the full list of AFL players. So if there's a particular player you're interested in, chuck it in the comments below. I might be able to either do a short about some of these players, or I'll do some TikToks, or I'll just reply to you with where the players are. But yeah, jump in the comments, let me know. Yeah, maybe even one day coming up on the socials, whether that's Twitter or whatever, I might do a full list of every player from 2024 ranked in order, but we'll see how that goes. As I mentioned, I did release the top 50 in episode 70 of the podcast last year, which was a look at the top 50 players of 2024. So some of this has been seen before on the podcast, but that's okay. I use a combination of stats, numbers, general vibes of the player, just how they went, basically. A look at everything from 2024 when coming up with these rankings. Missing games hurts you quite a bit, lowers your ranking, as does, a lot of other factors. So let's jump into top 50 from 2024. And there they are. That is a full list of the players. As you can see, 50 down to 26 in that first column. 25 to number 1 over in the right-hand side. Obviously, position is mentioned as well, as is the position rank. Worth noting, some players play multiple positions. You're never going to be able to get a perfect thing. I've gone with the position that I think that they were in the most throughout the season. So midfielders tend to be, if you play a certain amount of centre bounces, you become an inside mid. Obviously, outside mids are a thing, a little bit more complicated, but I've just kept them all to mids for this. Key forwards, key defenders, general forwards, and general defenders, as well as ruck. And as well, don't forget about the rucks. That's 50 through to number 1. Let's just start at number 1. Why not? It's the best player in the competition, in my opinion. 2 years running, Marcus Bontempelli. Players Association MVP in 2024. Heaney probably, arguably, was as good. Paddy Cripps obviously dominated the Brownlow. So there are plenty of thoughts about other players, but I personally have Bontempelli clearly on top from 2024. He's the best player in the competition in my eyes. The way he manages to win the ball, he kicks goals. Didn't have a great elimination final this year, but last year now. Sorry, I keep forgetting that we're in a new year, but I think he's just the best in the competition last year in 2024 as well as in 2023. Isaac Heaney had a standout season, his best year by far of his career. He's always shown potential. He hasn't ever really got that massive amount of midfield time throughout his career until this year. Obviously, he got a lot more midfield time in 2024, and he made use of it. He was an absolute gun throughout the whole season. His start to the year was fantastic. His qualifying final and prelim finals were massive. He was best on ground in both of those games. Grand final, not so good. Obviously was playing injured. You kind of forgive it, but no doubt about it. Fantastic season from him. He put Sydney on his back multiple times. He gets a lot of goals, like Bontempelli, gets a lot of the ball. Just an absolute standout player. Number 3, we had Paddy Cripps. Bit of a more hard-nosed midfielder. He has class, maybe not the finishing class of the other two, but he still kicks quite a few goals, gets a lot of the ball, carried Carlton, absolutely carried their midfield this year. Didn't get enough support, in my opinion, from Sam Walsh, who's a gun midfielder as well, but just too often it was Paddy Cripps or it was nothing for Carlton, and that probably was a reason why they fell apart a little bit towards the end of the year. He absolutely carried them. You look at his Brownlow votes, all-time most amount of votes in a season. Was it the greatest season of anyone's ever played? No. But in terms of Brownlow, he was the standout. He had a great season. Jesse Hogan I've put in 4th as a key forward. First non-midfielder on the list. Outstanding season from him. His 1-on-1 win percentage in 2024 was incredible, really. There's no two ways about it. He won about roughly 50%, I think slightly over 50% of his one-on-ones throughout the season, which is incredible. I think the next best was like 30-ish%, so way ahead of anyone else in the competition. Got it done week in, week out. Fantastic season from him. Number 5, Nick Dacos, Collingwood midfielder. Another one that kind of carried his team a bit. Didn't get enough support, certainly early season. Ended up winning the AFL Coaches Association MVP award. Second in the Brownlow, second most amount of votes by a player in a season. Had a fantastic season, no doubt about it. Be disappointed he missed finals. Collingwood missed finals this year, so be interesting to see how they bounce back this year. But a really good year. Lachie Neale, 6th. He was, in my opinion, better than he was in 2023 when he won the Brownlow. He had a fantastic year, and he capped it off with a outstanding performance in the grand final. Unlucky maybe not to win the Norm Smith. Don't get me wrong, Ashcroft was outstanding as well, but Lachie Neale played a fantastic game. Tom Stewart, first defender in the list, plays a bit of midfield time, a bit of defending time, gets a lot of the ball, plays a little bit of a different role than pretty much anyone else in the AFL, but he plays it really well. Where he starts in the back line a little bit, moves up into the into the midfield, after the centre bounce. Outstanding player. When he's on, he's really good. Max Gawn, best ruckman in the league for the last probably 3 or 4 years straight. Will he continue that? Maybe. He's, I think, 7 or 8 time All-Australian now. One of the greatest ruckmen of all time. Will he... How many more seasons has he got at the absolute top? It'll be interesting to see. We'll get on to ruckman shortly. How many more years he's got left in him up the top. Dane Zorko was a bit of an out of nowhere kind of thing. He ended up having to go back in round 1 due to Coleman getting injured for the Lions. Had to go back as a running backman, and it transformed his game. His 2023 season was okay, but was nothing outstanding. But at 35 years old, he took over the game for Brisbane, certainly early season in 2024. And he ranks number 9. Caleb Sarong, unlucky to be 10, to be honest. Outstanding season from him. Wins the ball in the middle really well all through the year. His start to the year was fantastic. Kind of on pace with Isaac Heaney across the first few weeks. Sam Collins gets the best key defender of the year. Outstanding season from him. Doesn't lose too many. Uses the ball well when he gets it. Spoils well. Plays a really good key defender role. Jeremy Cameron, different sort of key forward. He's a bit of a general forward play style, but in a bigger body. Listed as a key forward though. He was, I think, second leading goal kicker for the year. Fantastic season from him all year long. Can win the ball a lot more than most key forwards, or even most general sized forwards, to be honest. Gets up the ground a bit, he uses it well, and if he's in front of goals, doesn't matter which way he's facing, whereabouts he is in that 50, he is going to have a good shot at it. Because go back and watch that qualifying final against Port Adelaide over in Adelaide. Some of his finishing that day was outstanding. Errol Goulden is, by the length of the Flemington Straight, the best outside midfielder in the AFL. He's only, I think, 22-ish. 22 last year, I think. Maybe 23 this year. Absolute gun. Runs all day. Gets the ball. Kicks goals. Does everything. Was probably their best of their key midfielders on grand final day, when their whole midfield kind of struggled a bit. He did fight on most of the day. Played all right. Zach Merritt, Essendon's best player, no doubt about it. Inside mid. He gets clearances, he wins contested footy, he kicks some goals, he does everything. Really good player. Tristan Xerri, surprise packet a little bit. I mean, not massive, but that he's this high up going into the 2024 season. Probably wasn't expected to be anywhere near this high up in the rankings, but fantastic season from him. Just nudging out Rowan Marshall for the second best ruckman in my eyes. Harris Andrews, second best key defender. Outstanding season from him again. He doesn't put many feet wrong throughout the year. He wins his one-on-ones. He does what he has to. He gets his spoils. He looks after the ball when he's got it. He's a really good player. Dylan Moore, by far this year, or 2024, was the best medium-sized forward. He carried Hawthorn on his back in the first 10 weeks or 7 or 8 weeks when they were struggling a bit. He was the one player for them that was really doing well. And, yeah, I think didn't slow down in the second half of the year, but maybe others lifted around him, which made his role a little bit easier. So he was their best player, in my opinion, and also the best small, medium-sized forward. Tom Green, outstanding midfielder. He's potentially someone that could move up to top 10 this year, in my eyes. Roland Marshall was 19th, third best ruckman. Really outstanding season from him. Some people had him as the number one ruckman for the year. I can see that argument. I think Max Gawn was the best in my eyes. But Roland Marshall was really good. They play a bit of a different kind of ruck role. But, yeah, really good season from him. Matt Rowell was really good in that midfield role for Gold Coast. Charlie Curnow ends up 21st. He missed the last few games. He was on track for a fight for the Coleman. He may not have got it, but he was going to be... he was neck and neck with Jesse Hogan when he got injured. So it would have been interesting to see how that played out, but a really fantastic season from him again up until getting injured. If he hadn't have played those last few games, he probably would have been pretty like a few spots higher here, maybe even top 10. Jacob Wiedering, really outstanding key defender this year, or 2024 for the Blues. Nick Martin plays a variety of roles. General defender overall, but he does play on the wing at times. He does move forward into the forward line. I think he kicked 3 or 4 in the last quarter against Melbourne in about round 16 last year. So does play a variety of roles. And when allowed to play the correct role, I think he is absolutely outstanding. You just kind of got to let him take those risks. They will backfire sometimes, but he can break a game open really well. Luke Ryan, really good running backman, tallish, but also running backman for Fremantle. Chad Warner, outstanding season for the Swans. Kicking goals, goal assists, he did it all, especially through that middle part of the season. Treloar, best season of his career in my opinion. He gets ranked 26th. Averaged over 30 touches a game. Fantastic. Jai Newcomb, absolute gun season from him, especially in that second half of the year. Started to kick some goals, played some really good football. Darcy Cameron, underrated ruckman in my eyes. He was in the All-Australian 40. He played a really good season as a ruckman. Kicked some goals. Very rarely beaten throughout the year. Just did his job. Jake Waterman started the year really well. His rounds like 3 through 7 or 8 were fantastic. He was kicking like 5 goals a game. Looked really great. Could have... didn't quite finish the season off quite as well, but ends up top 5 in the Coleman. Really fantastic year from him when his team didn't have all that much success. Toby Green, a bit down on his previous year. I think the year before I had him ranked about 5 or 6th in the AFL. Less touches this year, less goals. Still really fantastic season from him though. McGovern, really good for West Coast in that key defender. Sam Flanders as a running backman. Max Holmes also running backman. Both got plenty of the football. Sicily is someone that played a variety of roles, mainly as a key backman. Does swing forward and kick goals. And potentially this year we'll see him do that a lot more. I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe Hawthorn chuck him on a wing or as a key forward throughout big chunks of games this year. The inclusions that Hawthorn have into their backline will free James Sicily up. Battle, Barras both coming in will strengthen that key defender role, which they already have a pretty solid list of players in that key defence. So, look for Sicily to kind of change roles a bit this year, I think. Tyson Stengel was really good as a forward line player. Zach Butters in the midfield, fantastic. Luke Davies-Yanaki, North Melbourne's best, arguably. I think he won their best and fairest. Turns it over a little bit more than he'd probably like, but still a fantastic season. Brodie Grundy was good in the ruck, maybe not the best all year, but his best was really good. Maybe not as consistent as some of the others. Hayden Young, fantastic midfielder. Really good support system to Caleb Sarong and Brayshaw in that midfield. They've got a really strong main three midfielders. Kieran Briggs, fantastic season all year long. Connor Ryden, really good as a general defender. Unlike most of the other general defenders on this list, he is a defender. Most of the others are ball winners that use the ball really well. Don't get me wrong, they defend. They do their job that way. But he is a defender first. And very rarely does he get beaten. So I think he's someone that I think is a very good pickup for any team if he becomes available. Because, as I said, unlike most general-sized defenders, he is a defender first. Harry Sheasel came in as a defender, played a lot of midfield time. 42nd is probably almost a bit harsh on him, but I would expect to see him jump up into the top 20 this year. You'll also get a lot more midfield time. So look for him to really improve. Jack Sinclair, another one that had a really good season, plays a bit of midfield time, also runs off the back line. Couple key defenders in Darcy Moore, Tom Barras next up. The Big O, unlucky to miss out on a grand final appearance due to his shoulder in the prelim, but a fantastic year from him, 46th overall. Noah Anderson, really good midfielder for Gold Coast, 47. Petrarca missed half the season, probably would have been a lot higher had he played the second half of the season, but he still cracks the top 50. Stringer, 49. He kicked 40-something goals, most amount of goals for a non-key forward. He maybe didn't have enough midfield time, in my opinion, but a really good player for overall. It'll be interesting to see how Essendon cover those goals that they lose out on there, and it'll be also interesting to see how GWS use him. Obviously, their forward line worked really well last year with Jesse Hogan, Toby Green, and others rotating through there. So it'll be interesting to see how Stringer fits into that forward line. It will likely work really well, but you never know. And final one is Jack Buckley, who is a key defender, the 8th best key defender from my rankings for 2024. As I said, there's a lot of players not on that list. That's only 50 out of like 650 players that played AFL football last year. It's pretty hard to narrow it down to 50, if I'm being honest with you. But yeah, we did the full 650, so if there are any players you're interested in, reach out, chuck it in the comments below. I will do my best to, I guess, get back to you and let you know where they rated for the year. I haven't done my pre-season rankings yet, but we're about to have a look into that sphere. At least the first thoughts of 2025. All right, so that's 2024 finished. It's time to start planning for 2025. Here not just yet. We're going to start looking and building our blocks. This will be our first look. It's our unofficial look. The final top 50 pre-season for my rankings will be announced in our AFL season preview episode of the podcast, which will be released on the 28th of February. So that is like 8 weeks away, give or take. It's about a week before the first game of the season. So make sure you comment, subscribe to the channel, whether you're watching this YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. In fact, just subscribe to all three. It's free. But do that. Come back for that episode. I mean, come back for every episode, but make sure you come back for that one. It will be a massive, massive episode. We'll be ranking top 50 preseason players. We'll be previewing what we think will be happening in 2025. We'll have our final ladder predictors. We'll have our Brownlow medal predictor. We'll have all of those in that episode. So come back and check that one out. Now back to 2025. When looking at making my top 50, the way I start to make it is I kind of put them into their positions and rank them in that order, and then I combine them into a list. So you have your midfielders all in a group, and you just basically compare the top line for each one. Person goes in, new top line for that position, and you just keep going, working your way down, and then that's how I start. So for this one, I'm using last year's end of season rankings and just kind of moving players around based on what I think needs to be changed. So looking at the end of last year's, obvious things to look at are injuries, missing games, getting towards their peak age range, improvements and stuff like that. Obvious big mover from last year is Christian Petrarca. He missed the whole back half of the year last year. He got injured in the King's Birthday Clash and didn't play again after that. He still made it into the top 50, sitting in 48th, having missed half the year. But it's pretty easy to see a world where he will be in the top 5 to 10 midfielders in the comp this year. Could potentially even be higher than that. Maybe range of 6 to 20 overall in the competition is probably where I would have him. While we're talking about Petrarca, it'll be interesting to see Clayton Oliver, because a couple of years ago he was the best midfielder in the competition in some people's eyes. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out as well for him. A couple other players that just missed the top 50 that missed a fair bit of football: Isaac Rankin and Sam Taylor. Rankin played 15 games. Sam Taylor played 18, so they both missed a fair chunk of football. With a full season, these two both should move into the top 50, you'd think. They both were in that 50 to 60 range in my rankings. Rankin, I would expect to be top 25 in the AFL. Based on what we've seen from him, he has the potential to be an absolute gun. And Sam Taylor, capable, has been previously ranked number 1 key defender, could potentially be number 1 ranked key defender again in 2025. So kind of expect him to move up the list. The next list of players that I'd be looking at making a move towards the top 50 are some of the young stars that are still pushing towards their peak. Might not be at their peak yet, but will be over the next couple of years. In all honesty, there's a heap that could fit into this category. I've narrowed it down to just a list of 6 or so players. But some of these are ones that I think are the most likely to move into the top 50 this year. Jason Horne-Francis just missed last year. I think he was 51. Ben King, young, tall forward, had a really good season last year, just missed top 50. Nick Blakey, outstanding. Sam Walsh, a young midfielder that should be getting better. Josh Tracy, the Fremantle key forward, really good. James Rowbottom, be interesting to see how he goes this year. He had an outstanding year last year. He's more of a defensive midfielder, but I could see him potentially sneaking into the top 50. And then a couple other young stars that were a little bit further down in the rankings, but I think have the potential to make the top 50. Pickett from Melbourne, if he gets a full season in, he's a really outstanding talent that can play midfield, can play forward. There's not a lot he can't do. So if he gets a full season, stays fit, healthy, look for him to have a really good season. Josh Weddle is right in that age range where he's just pushing towards that top 50. Sam Darcy, we all know what he did in 2024. Absolute breakout season. He's huge. He takes big contested marks up forward. He can go into the ruck when needed. There's just not a lot that guy can't do. And of course, another one that everybody knows about, Harley Reid. Big body, don't argue, flashy player. Look for him to improve even more on what he provided in his first season, and expect 2025 to be a huge season for him. So once we've done that, we put them in their positions, we move them up and down, and see what we can come up with. So I've pretty much put, for this video, the top 20 of each position. Other than Ruckman, I just did top 10. And for midfielders, I think I did top 30. But I might not have. We'll get to that anyway, shortly. So, we've put together some lists. We haven't narrowed it down to the top 50 in the AFL yet. We'll do that over... we'll keep working on that, and then obviously release that in that 28th of the February episode of the podcast. So come back and check that one out. Let's jump into the positions now. And first up, we've got our key defenders. There's our top 20 based on what we think we'll see next year. I've put Sam Taylor up to first. As you can see, we've got his 2024 rank. He was the 10th best key defender. I've got him moving up to number 1. I think with a full season of being healthy, he is the best key defender. Sam Collins was outstanding last year. I expect him to be really good again. Just worth noting, the age there is their age for next year. Or this year, sorry. We're in 2025 now. So not there. I don't even know what date it's based on. I can't even remember where it is. But anyway, it has been adjusted for 2025. Harris Andrews, outstanding last year. Expect another good year. Wiedering, Sicily, might not play key defender most of the year, but we'll see how that plays out. McGovern, Barras, Wilkie, Buckley, Darcy Moore. All of that was basically the top 10, just in a different order last year. Players that moved the most, Mac Andrew from 29 to 19. I think you could even see him move even higher than that. He had an outstanding season last year. He shows a lot of potential as a 22-year-old key position player. Has a lot of potential. Jack Henry moved into the top 20 here, as does a couple... Yeah, that's about it of the excitement, I guess, from this list. But as you can see, plenty of good tall defenders. No, you'll also notice that Hawthorn have a lot on this list. Josh Battle at 15, Weddle at 11, Barras at 7, Sicily at 5. And I think Scrimshaw just missed this list as well. So that's kind of why I expect Sicily to play more variety of roles, play that wing role, play that forward role as well in 2025. So that's our key defenders. We'll jump now into our general defenders. Here is our top 20 prediction. Got Max Holmes moving up to from 6th best general defender up to number 1, which might be a little bit surprising to some, but he had an outstanding season last year. He's only 23 in 2025, so he's got plenty of good football ahead of him. I think he can be an absolute gun. Luke Ryan was really good last year. I've got him moving from 4 to 2. Nick Martin staying at 3. I'd like to see him play that wing role a bit more, getting forward more, maybe even going into the inside mid at times, because I think, he has the potential to be really good. Tom Stewart was number 1 last year. I think he's going to cop a little bit more attention this year and might not find it quite so easy. Harry Sheasel, I think he'll go full-time mid, basically, in 2025. I don't think we'll see him as a general defender, but we'll see how that plays out. Sam Flanders, another good player. Connor Iden, Nick Blakey, running defender. Jack Sinclair, good. Dan Houston, 2-time All-Australian for Port Adelaide, joined Collingwood. I've got him as 10th best. Sorko, Whitfield, Bailey Dale, Blake Hardwick, who plays a variety of roles. Daniel Rioli, moving from 21 to 15. Dan Rampy, Wangani Malira, Bodie Uland, Nick Vloston, and Darcy Wilmot, the 21-year-old from Brisbane, going from 29th to 20th. We now move into the forward line. We've got our key forwards up first. Charlie Curnow ended up 3rd last year based on the fact that he just missed the last few games. He still probably would have been below Jesse Hogan, but I think over the last 3 or 4 years, he's been the key forward that's been the most dominant, basically since COVID. And I can't see a world where he's not in the top 3 this year. I would expect he'll bounce back to be number 1. Jesse Hogan was fantastic last year. His best season by an absolute mile last year. His contested footy is the best of any key forwards. So I would expect him to be right up there again. Jeremy Cameron, outstanding season last year. We expect the same. Ben King kicked a lot of goals last year. I expect that he'll kick more this year. Tracy took over as Fremantle's number 1 key forward. Jai Miss was the big dog the year before, whereas Josh Tracy took over that spot this year, in 2024. We expect it again in 2025. Waterman, he had a really great breakout season last year. Sam Darcy, I think we'll see continue to develop and become, maybe, he has the potential to be the best tall forward just due to his height. He doesn't drop them either, the marks, so I really expect a big season from him. Nick Larkey was a bit quiet last year, but I expect a bit of a bounce back. Harry Mackay, similar range as last year. Fogarty, moving up the list. Georgiadis, another one that could move into that top 10 key forwards. Hugo Hagen's only 23. Expect his best is good enough to be really outstanding, so I expect that we'll start seeing that at some point. Riley Thilthorpe, Kyle Langford had a great season last year. He'll probably drop down a little bit just based on the fact that others will be coming through, although there might be more pressure on him in the forward line in 2025. We'll see how that Essendon forward line plays out. Jai Miss, as we mentioned, Aaron Norton for the Bulldogs, Bailey Fritsch, Joel Amati, who obviously kicked 9 in a game one day, didn't do much else for the rest of the season, but still only 26, so we'll see how that he goes. Taylor Walker and Kaushik Deer, the 20-year-old, had an outstanding year last year, so I expect to see another good year from him. Next up, general forwards. Dylan Moore was the best last year. Toby Green was the best the year before. I think they'll still be 1 and 2 in 2025. Pickett, I would like to see have enough midfield time this year to be an actual midfielder. I think he has the potential as a centre clearance / running midfielder to be an absolute gun. If he plays that general forward role a bit more, though, I think he'll be in the top 3. Myers 4, Dyson Stengel, Cam Rayner showed signs late last year that he's ready to take that next step. He's now at 26, so this should be about his peak years of AFL football. It's been a bit of a slow burn at times for him, but I think he has the potential to really jump into that towards that top 50 this year. Tom Papley, fantastic year last year. Lohman was great in the grand final last year, as most people will remember, and all through the final series actually. So expect to see him do all right. Ben Keys, Stringer, change of club. I forgot to update that change of club on the sheet, but he's at GWS now. He was 4th best general forward last year. I've got him dropping down to 10th. He's getting on in age. It'll be interesting to see how he goes at a new club. Liam Baker, Zach Bailey, Sam Swiftowski, Brent Daniels, Elijah Hollins, and then a few that are moving up the list. Cody Waitman, Jack Ginnivan, Bobby Hill, Jack Higgins, and Callum Archie, rounding out the top 20. We will now jump into the rucks. As you can see, we only did 10 for these guys because there's just not as many of them. Each club only has typically 1, but some teams do run 2 ruckmen. Max Gawn, he's been the best ruckman in the AFL since basically Nick Natanui left. I've got him number 1. It's going to stay that way. Well, it might not. There's potential that players will pass him, but I don't expect to see him hand over that mantle too easily. Roland Marshall, he was 3rd last year. I think he's the most likely to jump into that number 1 spot. Plays a bit different than the other 3 ruckmen. He's probably the best out-and-out ruckman of the top 4, but doesn't win quite as much of it, maybe. Certainly Zeri and Briggs get a lot of sand clearances with their hacks out of the midfield. but I've got Jerry 3, Briggs 4, both outstanding. Youngish ruckman. I mean, most ruckmen don't start really playing their best until they're 26 onwards. So they're really going to start getting into their peak now. So their next couple of years will be huge, I think. Tim English, outstanding ruckman. He's also another one that's right around that peak time. Brodie Grundy, Oscar McInerney, Darcy Cameron dropping down from 4th, but I think that was just because others are coming up. Lloyd Meek and Luke Jackson in the 10. He missed a fair bit of football last year, so a full season from him will be interesting to see how that plays out for him. Now to the toughest position, in my opinion, and it's the midfielders. I only did 20. I thought I did more than that, but apparently I didn't. But that's okay. We only did the top 20. That will probably be about the top 50. There'll be about 20 midfielders in the top 50 is what I was trying to say. I've got Bontempelli on top again. There's no reason to remove him at the moment. He's been the best player in the competition in my eyes the last 2 years. I expect to see that again this year. Nick Dacos, I think he just keeps getting better. Maybe he doesn't, but if he does, he will be in the top 3 players in the competition in 2025. Paddy Cripps, what more can you say about him? He's done everything there is in the game of football, except for winning a premiership. He needs more support, there's no doubt about it, but he is an absolute gun. Caleb Sarong, another guy that's an absolute gun. He's only 24. He's got plenty of football ahead of him. Maybe the best centre clearance mid there is in this list. He's an absolute gun. Isaac Heaney had an outstanding season last year. I don't expect to see this year be as good, but you never know. I think he probably gets more support from the younger. Like, he's not old, don't get me wrong, he's only 29. But the Chad Warner, the Errol Goulden, the James Rowbottom midfielders, I think will give him more support this year and maybe even potentially overtake him as the key midfielders of their team. Tom Green, an absolute gun. He is someone that could be number 1 or 2. Don't get, in my eyes, I think he could potentially be 1 or 2 midfielder of the year. He's got a couple things to work out in his game, but he's someone that can win the ball, he can kick goals, he can do those things. So look out for him to potentially move up the list. Lachie Neale, he's getting on in age, but he just doesn't slow down. He won the Brownlow in 2023, second best on ground in a grand final in 2024. So he's still got plenty of football ahead of him. Errol Goulden, as we said, he runs all day. He's the best outside midfielder in the competition by an absolute age. And anyone else that's an outside midfielder should be watching him and how he goes about it, because he's by far the best there is. Matt Rao, gun midfielder, really good clearance player, good contested player. He's in there. Christian Petrarca could be anywhere from second best midfielder down to about the 15th or 16th best midfielder in my eyes. He is a gun. Jai Newcomb, if he develops along the same trajectory that he did last year, expect to see him as a top 10 midfielder in 2025. Zach Butters obviously is a gun. Same with Zach Merritt. Chad Warner, he's only 24 and he's really starting to show his best. If he can get that consistency up, he's someone that can kick goals, he can get goal assists, he can really affect the scoreboard like not many midfielders. Isaac Rankin, if he gets full midfield time, he could be a top 5 midfielder as well. I know I'm saying this about a lot, but there is a lot of players that are in contention of this. Horn Francis, he's a young player. He'll keep getting better as well. You'd think he's starting to show signs that he is a gun. And in all honesty, he's probably Port Adelaide's most important midfielder. He's also someone that can go forward and kick goals as a midfielder. Hayden Young, I think, is Fremantle's most underrated midfielder. He has the potential to be really good. Jordan Dawson was a bit down last year, so I expect to see him bounce back in 2025, get back into the top 20 midfielders. Connor Rose, really, really good player. Last year, missed a bit of football. Expect to see him bounce back a bit. And Josh Dunkley is the final one on that list. So that is the midfielders. That is every position for 2025 wrapped up. over the coming weeks, I will be developing that into a top 50 to spitball out at you in about 8 weeks' time before the season starts. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. If you've stuck around, enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that like button if you're on YouTube. If you're on the other ones, I don't know what there is, to be honest, but just share it with your friends, share it with your mum or your dad, your brother, your sister, anyone that you watch football with. Yeah, jump in the comments, let me know where I went wrong, where I went right. It's an opinion sport, really. Everybody has a different opinion. Everybody sees the game differently. This is how I see it. Make sure you tune in, week out, all the way through to AFL season start. There's going to be a lot of content coming your way, so I'm looking forward to bringing it to you. 2025 is going to be a growth year. We want to get big. We want to bring you the best content, so stick around, hit that subscribe button. Next episode will be next Wednesday with a whole bunch more content. We're going to be starting to look towards Supercoach, Fantasy, and a whole bunch more. But I want to thank you again for tuning in. Hit that subscribe button, jump in the comments, hit that like button. You know the drill. Thanks for tuning in. This is All Aussie Rules. I'm John, and I'll catch us next week. Thank you.